Previously on Modern Warfare, I blew up a church. I accidentally snipped the wrong wire. And I casually slaughter the entire population of Brazil.
Double kill, triple kill, overkill, kill-tacular, killing spree.
And now, the conclusion. Act 2 is where things really start ramping up. Russia's invasion of the United States has begun, and now we are introduced to apparently the only U.S. Army Ranger that is capable of doing anything. Private James Ramirez. The U.S. invasion missions in Virginia and D.C. are easily the highlights of the campaign for me, with the best environments, combat sections, and the best order ever.
Take your team and secure the Burger Town.
There it is! The plot bounces between the U.S. defending D.C. and the British doing British things.
The militia's closing in. Almost 200 of them, front and back.
Sounds good.
What about Rojas?
Don't worry about Rojas. The main plot point of the SAS story, after getting out of Brazil thanks to Nikolai, the GOAT, is trying to break into a Russian gulag and rescue an individual only known as Prisoner 627. After breaking through the defenses and having fun in the prison showers, no, not like that, it is revealed that the prisoner is none other than Captain John Price, who was captured between games due to a trap laid by Makarov. And now we get to Of Their Own Accord, and even though I love every mission in this game, if I had to pick one as my favorite one, this is it. First off, the introduction to this mission is one of the most terrifying things any person could see pop up on their screen. Secondly, the atmosphere is presented perfectly in this beginning sequence.
Overlord, this is Hunter 2-1 actual. Request an airstrike, over. Negative 2-1 actual. All available air units are currently tasked with multiple casevacs along the Potomac. Proceed west to the target building and provide support. Out.
And finally, pretty much everything else about this mission kicks ass, and really brings the idea of modern warfare in the United States to light. The final section in the Black Hawk, just roaming over the battlefield in the National Mall, is just fantastic. This mission closes out Act 2 with your helicopter getting shot down, because it's a helicopter in a Call of Duty game, and surrounded, with the screen eventually going white with the glare of an enemy helicopter's searchlight. Holy shit, I love this game! Act 3 is where many loose ends are tied together, starting with the now-released Price performing a raid on a Russian base in order to get access to a submarine. A submarine that Price specifically focuses on having nuclear missiles for no particular reason whatsoever. Everything goes well, except for me not having any spatial awareness whatsoever, when Price boards the sub and launches a nuke at America. This nuke had a specific goal, having been set to detonate above the east coast of the US. This causes an EMP that knocks out all power on the eastern seaboard, but also gives the American military the time they need in order to push back against the Russian advance. This did, however, take out the International Space Station and this one astronaut. Oops. Once the US Army, mainly being Ramirez, are able to take back the White House and kick Slavic Special Ed out of Washington, D.C., we hop back into the shoes of Roach for yet another iconic mission. Makarov's location has been nailed down to 2 points, a boneyard in Afghanistan that Soap and Price go to, and a safe house in the Caucasus Mountains that Roach, Ghost, and some dispensable meat shields go to raid. Everything goes well in the safe house, with Makarov's Google search history downloaded to a DSM, as well as wiping out a small city's worth of Russian soldiers. Fleeing from the onslaught, Roach and Ghost meet up with General Shepard, and now we get one of the most famous moments in Call of Duty history.
DSL. We've got it, sir.
Good. That's one less loose end.
No!
This betrayal floored so many people when they first saw it, a lot of them thinking it had come out of nowhere. But if you really pay attention to his dialogue, you start to see the hints forming. Shepard was shown to be a man who was obsessively focused on warfare, and using it to show strength instead of a way to move toward peace. He saw the US Army as a powerful force, but with no real enemy to test it, just hordes and hordes of insurgents and rebels to sweep aside with no effort. In a sadistic way, General Shepard was bored. He wanted the glory, the recognition, the immortality of becoming an icon in the eyes of the people. You even hear soldiers giving hints for this with the way they explain how he thinks of basic military safety concepts.
Hey, isn't this danger close for the task force?
Come on, since when does Shepard care about danger close?
This is a man that when he sets a goal, he will achieve it no matter who or what stands in his way or needs to be removed from his way. The reason the DSM was so important for him to acquire was because, unbeknownst to the protagonists, Shepard was one of the main architects of World War III, with it being quite heavily implied that the reason for Makarov knowing about Joseph Allen being inside his crew is because General Shepard allowed that information to be leaked to him. Thanks to that, the General got everything he wanted. A blank check, the spotlight, and all the power he could ever want in the United States military. He got the war he wanted. And now all he needs to do is to remove those who knew about his trick. AKA Task Force 141. The last stretch of the game has you take the role of Soap once again, with Price as your co-pilot, just like in Modern Warfare 1. They first need to get out of the boneyard that they were sent to, which has now been turned into one giant free-for-all with Makarov's men and Shepard's personal army, called Shadow Company, trying to kill each other. Price then gets the information from Makarov on Shepard's location using the old idiom of,
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Price, one day you're going to find that cuts both ways. Shepard is using Site Hotel Bravo. You know where it is. I'll see you now.
Looking forward to it. Give my regards to Zakhaev if you get there first.
with Nikolai coming in clutch once again to rescue them. Here's your daily reminder once again that Nikolai is the GOAT. Now comes the final hunt for Shepard, and nothing is going to stop the deadly duo from finishing the job. Ripping through Shadow Company and chasing the backstabbing bastard down a river, shooting down his escape chopper, and finally going over a waterfall. Ow! This leaves a battered and injured Soap to finally hunt down Shepard.
Wait! You wouldn't kill a fellow Call of Duty pick, right? Alright, you say you're a Call of Duty fan? Name 3 good campaigns. 3 good campaigns. Okay. Infinite Warfare. Alright, I'll give you that one. I haven't played it, but I've heard good things about it. Modern Warfare 2. Alright, that one's a no-brainer. I might actually let you live now. What's the third? Ghosts?
And you finally catch up to him and okay, never mind. Never mind. Alright! This is where we get the final piece of the betrayal puzzle. Everything comes back to that damn nuke. When Shepard saw the world's reaction to losing all those men, he finally snapped and decided that the only way to win back the glory of the US Army is to give them a true conflict and enemy, thus driving him to start World War III. Price tackles him to the ground before he can shoot him, but the general's death was guaranteed because of one mistake. He gave a British man a knife.
Huh?
The game finally ends with Nikolai coming in clutch once again, picking up Soap and Price and taking them to an unknown safe house. Modern Warfare 2 is just so damn good. You may notice that the final part of me gooning over this game did not have a lot of jokes, or at least things that if you looked at them through a NASA telescope you could call it humor, is just because I cannot get enough of it. The ending nicely sets up the story of the final game. Unfortunately, as much as I love this trilogy, Modern Warfare 3 is where there are a few missteps that I do have to address. After playing Modern Warfare 3 again for this video, I realize now how mixed my feelings are on this game as a whole. On one hand, this game still does have some iconic Call of Duty moments, the gameplay is still fun, and I absolutely love the final mission. On the other hand, the game shifts so hard in the action movie Michael Bay-esque style rather than the more grounded and serious atmosphere than the first two titles. For example, here's the battle for DC in Modern Warfare 2. And here's the battle for New York in Modern Warfare 3. The set pieces go so overboard sometimes that they just end up looking silly and pulling me out of the tone that is supposed to be there. The other problem I have is that the story has just a few too many, let's call them how moments. You'll see what I mean when I talk about the campaign shortly. You might also notice that the graphics, lighting, and audio are nowhere as crisp as the previous games. That is because those games shown are the remastered versions of Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and for some reason 3 has not gotten that treatment. I honestly don't know why. Just finish remastering the trilogy, for crying out loud. After all, we know that Activision will always make the most sensible decisions that make the players happy, right? So let me explain why I think that the overall campaign of Modern Warfare 3 is 100%, completely, positively, absolutely okay. After a quick recap of the events of the previous two games through the visuals of Jack Dougherty's McLaren...
Oh! Oh! No! No! No!
The game begins with a nice tutorial. Nope, just kidding. Welcome to World War 3. Here's a gun. Go kill Russians. You're part of Delta Team and your name is Frost. Go, 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 go! Yeah, if you thought that the pacing of Modern Warfare 2 was fast, then Modern Warfare 3 is going at warp speed, and the first two missions perfectly show that. Most of the game's campaign barely gives you a time to breathe or even get a grasp of the situation, just flinging massive amounts of enemies at you and saying good luck. A lot of the times when I got killed, I had no clue from where, because the game's color palette can also make it really hard to spot the guy currently trying to make another hole in your head. The first part of the New York section has you running to disable a jamming tower with an admittedly cool firefight inside the New York Stock Exchange, and after a quick helicopter tour of the city, we are given the objective of taking over a Russian sub that is commanding the naval forces parked in the Hudson River. The next mission has you do that thing I just said. After going through average traffic in the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, the sub is taken and has its missiles retargeted to kill the Russian ships. And the team escapes with the Zodiac, aka the funny boat. And here's where we get the first how moment. How the hell did the Russians manage to get an entire navy into the Hudson River? The air invasion of DC admittedly did raise some questions, but it was still more feasible than this. No matter what route the Russians would take, they would have to have been spotted by someone else. The excuse can admittedly be made that they used the radar blackout in the second game to come in at the same time as the Air Forces, but it is still a bit silly. Afterwards is the first mission with Task Force 141, now disavowed, where a new member is introduced, their pet Russian named Yuri. The mission is pretty cut and dry, with Yuri helping Price and Nikolai get a still wounded Soap onto a chopper, with a admittedly fun final section involving Wally with anger issues. Then we jump over to the not at all temporary role of a Russian redshirt guarding the Federation President Boris Fortevsky. Boris was always reluctant about the war and was only pushed to start it after the Russian people considered him weak after the events of No Russian. This caused them to turn to seeing Makarov as the true leader of Russia because they knew he would be the one to actually go to war with the West. Anyway, while flying to a peace conference in Hamburg, the plane is hijacked by Makarov's men. And then we get How moment number 2. How did anyone survive this plane crash? Honestly, this crash was so over the top and brutal that Boeing is taking notes, and it even ends with one of the engines yeeting itself into where you are standing. Either way, after surviving your average American Airlines landing, you fight through a bunch more of Makarov's meat shields and are finally able to get the president to safety.
Come on, the chopper's here. Let's get you out of here, Mr. President. Hey, look, I got the president for you.
Oh no.
Makarov then takes the president and orders the rest of the crew to find his daughter in order to use her as a bargaining chip to get, what else? The nuclear launch codes. We then jump back to Yuri and 141 as they investigate a suspicious eBay package in Africa that is linked to Makarov, but it is unfortunately shipped away just before Price and friends can catch up to it. And by the way, we're still in Act 1, and if it feels like we're jumping between more men than Taylor Swift, that's because we are. This is another problem that Modern Warfare 3 has. It has so many points jumping around to make the plot happen, it just becomes confusing. The first acts of both previous games were quite short, getting the major plot points set up quite nicely. 1's prologue had 2 missions and a glorified cutscene, 2's first act had 5 missions, with 1 being a short tutorial, but 3 has 6 full missions that see you jumping all over the place in order to get the plot rolling. Funnily enough, Act 1 is actually the longest part of the game, meaning the actual meat of the story is quite small. Speaking of jumping around, we hop into the boots of another character, this time an SAS squad member investigating a suspicious charity truck in London. After causing a crap ton of damage to the London Underground with another ridiculous transportation disaster, the truck is cornered and we finally get some answers with the third and final shocking moment of the trilogy, Davis' family vacation. Quick disclaimer, just want to point out that the real-life loss of a family member, be it parent, child, or sibling, is not something that I take lightly, and I am sorry for anyone that has had to go through that. From a narrative point of view, however, this moment is just lazy. It's just a 2-minute interactive cutscene where a family vacation, wow, how did I figure that out, is happening in London when one of the sussy trucks parks in front of them and explodes, releasing a chemical agent all over the city. From the moment it starts, you know what's gonna happen, so there's really no reaction from it. The reason the nuke and No Russian were so effective was the fact it caught people off guard, and really solidified them as shocking moments. The nuke is still the best, by the way. The vacation just feels like it was written last minute because some dude in the back of the meeting room piped up and said, "Hey, we forgot to add a shocking moment." Shit! But with that, we are finally done with Act 1. The rest of the game is honestly pretty easy to sum up. But first, another how moment. So Macaroni and Cheese just pulled off a massive chemical weapon attack on several major European cities. And then in literally the next sentence, Russia attacks all of Europe at once. How? Just how? An invasion of the United States was already a bit far-fetched, even if it was treated with seriousness and gravitas. But this is just silly! How was this even planned out? Anyway, 141 tracks down an African warlord named Warabe, who sold the bombs, and he says that he sold them to a guy named Folk, then Price domes him and lets the American Delta Force know that he is in Paris. Delta Force then finds Volk with a car crash that 100% did not end up with his skeleton looking like a Mortal Kombat X-ray, then extracts him after accidentally knocking over the Eiffel Tower. Oops. This leads us back to 141, where the gang infiltrates the city of Prague because they got intel that Makarov was going to have a meeting there. After a quick stealth mission, the plan is set, but then...
Captain Price. Ад ждет тебя.
Price, get out of there!
Yuri, my friend. You never should have
What the
come
hell's he
here.
talking about? Get out now!
You try to get Soap to safety. Unfortunately, though, you run out of time. But he is able to get one last sentence out to Price.
Oh no, 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 no! So! No, no, no! So! You have to go now! Get off me!
The emotions and reactions from Price are done perfectly here. And after sucker punching Yuri down the stairs, even more things are revealed. Yuri was beside Makarov from the beginning, the attempted assassination of Imran Zakhaev, Al-Assad's nuke, and finally the Moscow airport massacre, where Makarov left him for dead because he warned the security attack. Yuri even followed Makarov to try and stop him, but collapsed due to blood loss and was later found by the emergency responders. Now, yes, this does raise even more questions about how the hell airport security was not prepared for the attack, but I digress. This explains why Yuri hates Makarov so much, and now he and Price have a simple goal. Kill him. The final act honestly just feels rushed, since it only consists of 4 missions. First, we have Yuri and Price infiltrating a castle owned by Makarov, where we learn that he has located President Borchevsky's daughter and plans to use her as a way to get the nuclear codes from the president.
Time to go.
Delta Force is then sent to Berlin to extract her, then immediately fails at their one job. This would have been a nice moment to add a mission or two, maybe where the president does break and it becomes a race against time to both rescue the president and his daughter, as well as stop Makarov's nukes. But instead, we immediately know where they are being held, go rescue them, unfortunately losing Delta Team in the process. Except Frost for some reason. He just wasn't there. Maybe he just read the script and called it quits. This immediately ends the war as the US and Russia start peace talks, meaning that World War III, one of the most devastating conflicts the world has ever seen, killing millions, lasted a total of 2 months. Yeah, in my opinion, they should have done a few time skips between missions somewhere in order to make the war go longer. 2 months is just way too fast, in my opinion. Either that, or make the time skip between 2 and 3 a bit longer. I don't know, something. But now there is one last loose end to tie up. Vladimir Makarov is still alive, and now it is time to fix that problem. Dust to Dust is a fantastic mission, not only to end the game, but the entire trilogy overall. The beginning of the mission basically has you pull a reverse No Russian, with Price, who you are now playing as, and Yuri pulling up in a Walmart brand Mjolnir armor and turning the entire opposing army into human sprinklers. Once they start getting to the top of the hotel, the armor is damaged and needs to be ditched, and it becomes a race against time to catch the Slavic shithead before he escapes. He nearly gets away on a chopper, but Price jumps on his helicopter and crashes it back onto the hotel. Makarov is still not down though, and right before he can kill Price, Yuri shows up to help, but unfortunately his aim sucks. Ah! Now Price has lost literally everyone, except Nikolai, because Nikolai's the GOAT. And now, fueled by British rage, he beats the shit out of the commie piece of crap, pushes him through the glass roof, and gives him a good old Texas necktie. And with one final puff of a cigar, it is all over. I will not deny the series is flawed. The whole idea of a Russian invasion of the US and Europe in hindsight is kind of ridiculous, especially with what we now know about the Russian army. Big shock, communists and their armies suck. This still does not decrease the enjoyment I have for these games, with Modern Warfare 2 still being a campaign I just love playing over and over again. This also now gives me a desire to play more of the classic COD games. For example, I've never played the original Black Ops games. Why do I feel like I just committed a sin? Anyway, if you've not played this series, I really recommend you try it out. The remastered versions of 1 and 2 are fantastic, although you have to go on Blizzard to get 2, and why 3 is still $40, I have no idea. It has been over a decade since it came out. Drop the frickin' price. That being said, however, there is one thing I never called these games. Even with all the praise I heaped on them, I never said they were my favorite Call of Duty games. That title is reserved for one game in particular, and that is one I will cover in a future video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, then please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to keep up to date of more awesome content in the future. Y'all are awesome, y'all stay awesome, and y'all have a good one. Bye.